All right, so did you care at all about the Redskins win on Sunday?
I did.
Well, I mean, if you got to play, you might as well win. But other than that, it's not the end of the earth to say they won this game. I mean, they played okay. But I think the defense, people are like, oh, the defense, 2 good games. He played against 2 awful quarterbacks. And I guess the best thing of the last 2 games was you got to see what life after Kirk might be. So maybe you want to keep Kirk because otherwise, remember the days of Beck and Grossman and all them?
Of course.
You saw this the last 2 weeks with Gabbert and Osweiler. That's what the Redskins had.
Right.
You really want to go back to that?
Right, of course not. Yeah, but if anybody had half a brain, you thought of that before. You need to see these 2 terrible performances to be reminded. Maybe Bruce and Dan did it, but I think anybody with half a brain realized that you're just jumping right back on the quarterback carousel if you let him go.
The fans are so divided over Kirk. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in all the years. Maybe Sonny Billy, but even then it wasn't as heated. But they're just people who have been corrupted by the money that Kirk's getting. They just won't deal with it. And there's people who just can't deal with RG3 isn't still quarterback.
Yeah.
And they hate Kirk for it. And there's no satisfying them. And the man's on the verge of his 3rd straight 4,000-year passing season. Nobody else has done that on the team. But yet it's not enough. It's never enough. Throw 3 touchdowns way through that bad pick. People need to take a breath and appreciate what they have here. But I think in the end, if I had to throw my money on the table today, I don't think Kirk's back.
Wow. I tell you, that'd be a big mistake in my opinion. But I can't wait. We'll see how it plays out. You tweeted something I thought was interesting. You said Bovada Futures had the Redskins wins at 7.5. And, we went through, of course, we did it 3 or 4 times. I think the last time we went through the schedule before the season started, I think I had them at 8-8. I'm feeling pretty good, right? I think it's going to hit 8-8. But as you say, Vegas never makes it easy. You were thinking 7 before the season. Then as they got going and they beat the Raiders, and you're thinking, well, maybe 10's possible. Then you went back to 6. Now here they are looking at 8. As you say, it is a process. Things change, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think opened at 7, so they kind of ended up being what I thought they would be. But look at this team. And the defense for a while looked really good and then looked horrible. And now it's back looking okay again. But with 20 players on the IR, man, this whole roster just changed so much that when people talk about Gruden and his future and all, I thought Gruden did a hell of a job pulling this boat together. And finishing 8-8, I think that's a hell of an accomplishment for what they've been through.
This year, but shouldn't you look at the whole body of work for Gruden? He's sub 500 after 4 seasons. If you asked...
Oh, please, listen to this. Listen to this. Let's go back over this for one moment. All right, Snider has hired the rich and famous, the great college, the big pros. What's happened with any of them? Zippo. He finally got an assistant head coach, a coordinator, and that's not Zorn because he wasn't one of those. And what's he done? Well, he's given you 3 decent years, and you're acting like, well... You got to throw out the first year because that was a shady burn down that he did. Now you got 3 years that have been okay. All right, that's eons better than what we had for many, many years.
It's better,
but suddenly
it's
it's like not enough. It's not. I mean, isn't the guy taking to the Super Bowl? Probably not. But how is this team supposed to find the next coach when this is the best they've done so far?
I get it, but let's say that next year they go 7-9. Then what's the conversation?
Well, then
it'd be a decent year, I guess, by your definition, based on the past.
But it's like we just talked about Cousins. It's never enough either. You have to gauge where you've been and what you could be. Now, 7-9 next year, is that with Kirk or is that with a rookie quarterback?
With Kirk.
They
franchised Kirk, and they have a similar year to this year. They missed the playoffs.
Well, you have a right to then say, the guy's done all he can do. He took us from bad to good, but he can't take us to great. Now, this team needs to support a coach that can take it to great. But who are they going to take? Because they've taken all these big names before. They've always been pretty much a failure. Even Gibbs in his second tenure was just hot and cold. I don't have any faith in them in picking a head coach that's great. That's not to say you have to stay with Gruden any more than say Cincinnati stayed with Lewis for 15 years and no playoff wins. But, it's not an easy decision, and this front office has never shown me the ability to make a great pick.
Joined by Rick Snider. You can read his work at thefandc.com. You wrote about this finale and Kirk actually wanting the team to get to 8-8. should we actually commend the team for getting to 8-8? You kind of said, well, Jay's done a great job if they get to 8-8. To me, you don't really laud something like that.
What do you want? You want to be 7-9 instead?
What's the difference?
Well, there is none then, and that's part of the column I wrote was 5 minutes after this game is over, no matter what your season is, players have forgotten it. They're packing their bags and they're going. Mm-hmm. And so the team, so the fans, they're already asking who they're going to draft. Mm-hmm. You know, so does it matter? No. But if you're going to play the game, might as well win. You know, but it's a historical thing. You can look back on the books and say, well, 8-8. It's no different than 7-9 per se. But you know, there's nothing wrong if you're going to go out to play. You might as well win.
It's you're right. When you're not in the playoffs, you know, what's the difference? In 7-9, 8-8, I don't think there's a marked difference there at all. Certainly 8-8 sounds better.